it true that you have given up beers?
Given up on the beers. Yes.
Is that beers
correct.
or beers? Not having beers?
Beers. Yeah, beers. They're done.
What about beer with BackChat?
No, we can have something else.
Oh.
Beers with BackChat will happen, and we've been talking about it again. Because, we've been talking about it for a while, but we've been making strides. Yeah, it actually needs to happen. We've been making strides in the planning process. But beers, yes. I think I got a bit sick over the Christmas break, and then someone asked me to go get a beer with them, and I couldn't think of anything worse at that point.
Off the beers.
And then I was like, you know what? I don't think I need beer anymore. I'm like bloated. You drink it.
Is this an ad for Canadian Club?
Like when you go out,
like
if you have 4 pints of beer, maybe 5, that's 2.5 litres
blind drunk.
of beer. You don't need that.
Wow.
So I've been like gin and soda.
Yeah.
It hydrates you as you become slightly intoxicated. I just don't need the beers. And I'm happy about my decision.
Welcome to the world of professional athletes, mate. This is what athletes do. They don't have beers. It hurts your skin folds. You have vodka waters, vodka sodas, vodka waters.
I knew it. I knew deep down.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Ever since you got pulled up at Crown Casino that time, you've made some big changes in your life. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to BackChat. Here we are, episode 34. That's a little bit, isn't it? It's good.
One more till 35.
That's correct, Dan. I wanted to go through a couple of things off the top. New social handles. Yes, it's been a little bit of a feature off the top of most BackChat podcasts where I have to go through and stuff up every one of our social handles. So I thought, right, enough's enough.
Yep.
Time to regulate it.
Fair enough.
So Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, BackChat __. Yes, that's right.
Double underscore.
If one underscore wasn't enough for you, ladies and gentlemen, it is 2. So if you want to find us across all socials, BackChat __ is where you will find us. I'm pretty excited about that.
Still the same email address though, hello@backchatpodcast.com.au.
And the website?
backchatpodcast.com.au.
Miss www. Yeah, so YouTube, we're just BackChat now, taking the 2.0 away.
Yeah.
I got sick of it. Sick to death of it.
Means nothing.
Where's BackChat? BackChat 2.0 is, we're BackChat.
We're BackChat 3.0.
All right, no, we're BackChat. Enjoying the interactions this week on socials and emails. Some very good You Send It, We Read It this week. So if you do want to get your question across and you don't want to miss out, that'd be the way to do it. You send it, we read it. hello@backchatpodcast.com.au. Off the top, I think we can keep it sporty.
Yep, that's what we do.
And watchy, because we're on YouTube. And if you want to find us, that's where you get to us, YouTube, and subscribe. Yes, I'll leave you just a little moment to do that. Yeah, we're still here. Just thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. While we're talking about watching things, top 10 most watched sports of the year 2021 came across your desk, Dan Const.
I was surprised by a few of them. There's obviously the big ones in there. What was? Let's just go through the list.
Let's go from 10.
From 10. Good. Very good. Golf.
Golf at 10.
Sort of not surprising. It's a big sport.
Without knowing the other 9, is that surprising or not? We don't know because golf...
Sure, I assume golf.
Do you sit down and watch golf?
A lot of people do. I don't.
I went through a stage where I'd sit down and watch the majors. I don't think there's many better things than watching a major. I don't know why. That 4 days of the Masters. I watched that. Do you watch that?
No. It's too choppy and changey. One guy's on hole 3. I just want them all to line up and have a turn each, and then that's probably a horrible way to do it.
I kind of like that. Okay, rugby.
Yeah,
sort of rugby.
Probably international rugby.
What?
I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
Not for me.
It doesn't say it on this list.
Not for me, guys. I'm sorry. Baseball at 8.
Baseball for me is if I'm having a sick day at home and it's on, I'll happily just have it on and sort of get into it.
I don't watch baseball. I would watch the World Series. Again, kind of like golf. I wouldn't watch random
There's 170
tournament.
games a season or something per team.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's a little bit why I don't like the NBA, to be honest. Too many games.
Okay.
Basketball's in next, though. 7.
I thought it would be higher.
It's high.
Or low, which way depends. I thought it would be closer to 1. Let's say that.
You're a big basketball fan. What do you like about it?
The time management, the drama off the court.
The time and management, like when they call
Time
timeouts.
management. Yeah, it's so good. The 2-for-1s.
That's the
33
first thing
seconds.
you like about basketball, the time
Yeah, the strategy, the athleticism. It's all very good.
Luckily, we'll be joined in studio by someone who will know about the good things about basketball. And I tell you what, if he tells me the best thing about basketball is time management, I'll spew up and I'll walk out. And you get stuck and you clean up. Greg Hires lap with my spew in it. Okay, basketball at 7. Tennis. Sorry, you can see how I did that though, right? Not tennis, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a fair bit to watch in that space. We will be touching on Novak Djokovic a little bit later on. Table tennis at 6.
Tennis. You know what? That was
Where
sort
have
of
you pulled
surprising.
these views from?
I don't know. There was a website and it was a screenshot. But table tennis, like when you think about it first, you're like, yeah, but like the countries that are really into table tennis,
high population.
China, Japan, these countries,
Just
a lot of
picking Asian
population.
countries, yeah, good.
Yeah, well, they've got the high population, and they're into it.
Where does the best table tennis player come from in the world, Charlie? Hello, Charlie. Charlie's here, ladies and gentlemen.
The best in the world.
Yes, can you please find that out?
Yeah.
I want to know
I'd
where
say
the
it's
world
China.
champ
I
of
think
table
it would
tennis
be
is
China,
from.
Yeah.
Should we?
Australia's got a good
I
one.
don't want to presume anything.
I think we should aim to interview someone from each one of these sports
Yep.
on BackChat.
Okay.
So we're giving basketball a tick
Done
today.
that.
I mean, like Josh Garland, but not really in the basketball
Andrew
space.
Bogut.
Yeah, that's right. I
that's a
forgot
big
about
one.
him.
I've got one here.
Yep.
All right. So the 2021 world champion in the men's is Fan Zhengdong.
Excuse me?
Fan Zhengdong
Yep.
from China.
China.
Runner-up is Truls Morgard from Sweden.
Okay.
It's the Swedes.
Yeah.
The Swedes have had a few in recent years.
Okay.
Last year's runner-up was another Swedish guy.
Women.
I'm just scrolling down to it.
Okay, Charlie. While you're finding that, we'll go to 5 while you're getting those details. Volleyball is in front of table
Do you know
tennis.
what?
I
think
could watch a good game of volleyball.
Yeah, I like indoor volleyball is excellent. It's very fast. They dive at balls, and you know what? The more I think about it now, it's a college sport. It's a big college sport.
Very excitable though. Like
Very
very
excitable.
all about every single
Every
point.
point. Yep.
You got to touch everybody. You got to
Yep.
slap each other up.
Yeah.
I
Love it.
I
love the
love
camaraderie.
and like there's a person in red. Like, all they can do is dig. They're just
Yeah,
the digger.
the digger.
What are they called?
The digger.
Nah, there's a different name. Charlie, put that on the list. You got to find out the name of the volleyball position
Oscar
that
Allen's
only digs.
Oscar Allen talked to us about that.
No, that's the opposite of that.
Oscar Allen's mate plays in a college team.
I love
and
it.
He is that guy.
I love how I look at Charlie and ask him to do things, and he looks back at me as if he doesn't know.
How?
Charlie, you have a computer in front of you.
How do I do this?
Okay, so there we go. Volleyball at 5. Very strange there. Baseball, basketball, table tennis, volleyball. I think this is thanks to ESPN, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
Number 4 is tennis.
Yep.
That's not a yep, mate. That's
when
absolutely
Wimbledon's one of those ones that come on and everyone watches it.
It's just a...
And there's 1,000 tournaments a year.
So golf, we need to chase someone. Rugby, I don't know how we're going to get someone there. Baseball's doable. There's a couple of...
Perth Heat's a very big team.
They're not playing at the moment. They've cancelled their whole league because of COVID. Tennis. I'd love to get Kyrgios.
Yeah, Kyrgios has been a guy that we've been in discussions with.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right. Well, table tennis. We'll track down. What are the girls? Girls champions.
Girls is the winner and runner-up. We're both Chinese.
Okay.
And this is interesting. The men's doubles also Swedish. The winners.
We're going to interview a Swede,
This
man.
is interesting.
Swedish table tennis. Yeah, we love it. All right. Top 3. Who's on the podium?
field hockey.
That is absolutely wrong.
Well, look, it's from the website that had a JPEG that had a top 10 list on it.
Field hockey is the third most watched sport in 2021.
I've
Again.
figured out which website this is, by the way, as well. It's sportsbrowser.net.
Ah, there you go. Seems reputable.
.net.
Think of the best, the top probably 4 countries in the world.
.com was taken. So they took .net. Sorry, say it.
Top 3-4 sports countries in the world with field hockey. You'd probably say Australia,
Netherlands.
India. India has 1 billion people.
New Zealand are very good.
Yep. I'm thinking
Don't
more.
have 1 billion.
Yeah, but high population. India, though,
Yeah, but Australia and
I
Netherlands.
wonder if this includes the Olympics. If that counted.
Well, I mean, but even if it did, I'd love to be challenged here. Number 2,
Cricket.
I love how you were agreeing with all these.
Yeah,
Cricket,
again, India. High population.
True, I didn't think of that.
Pakistan as well.
Pakistan.
And it's all year round. Like, as much as it's like a summer sport, they bloody milk it.
Drum roll, number 1.
No surprises.
Yeah.
Soccer or football, depends where you're from.
So F1 doesn't get a lick there.
No, it'd be growing.
Table tennis gets over the F1.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
What's missing there?
F1. I think you've done it.
I don't know. You let us know. You want to get in touch? Jump on the socials and let us know if we've missed the mark there. I think
ice hockey. I don't know.
I think
Russia.
the aim is to get someone from every one of those sports. So we've doubled up on basketball. We literally have no one from any other sports that we've interviewed. Correct?
Yeah, cricket's on the way though.
Oh, cricket's on the way. All right. Okay, so you've given up the beers, but beers with BackChat will be happening.
Yes.
Keen to see some interest on that. We will have a poll up on Instagram this week.
And I know we've rattled on about beers with BackChat for a while, but essentially this is what it is.
Yep.
We'll record an episode at a pub, and then afterwards we'll hang out and we'll just have beers.
Yep.
Come along. That's it.
And while we're
Real
doing
simple.
the episode, sitting there and watch us do it, like Charlie does.
Yeah.
We won't give you all the microphone like Charlie's so wonderfully got. What did I ask you to find? You haven't found it yet.
The volleyball position.
Yes.
I've got it open. So you wanted the dig, was it? Which I believe is the setter. No, not the outside hitter. Outside hitter.
Absolutely
No,
not
it's
outside
not.
hitter.
They've got a special name.
Yeah, I'll leave you to it, Charlie. You'll come back to us in a
us.
couple of minutes, mate. Fantasy footy is happening. So, sorry. Beers with BackChat will be happening. Poll will be on Instagram. Would you want to come?
Yeah.
Do you want to come and have a beer with BackChat? Mm-hmm. Or a whiskey
Gin
with
and
Dan?
soda.
Yeah, because Dan's off the beers. Fantasy football is going to form a big part of my life over the next 6 months.
It is. I have. It's been years since I've played fantasy.
You know I've been doing it for a long time.
Yep. You think you're good at it. I can't comment.
I don't know. I just off the top of my head, I came second in the country in round 17. So, if that's good, then I suppose I am good at it. If it's not good.
Who are some of the people that are playing in your league? Is it pretty exclusive?
No, I'm just in schoolmates, kind of been doing it for like 20 years. So you can't join that.
What's your team name?
We could do a BackChat league. We could do a BackChat league and make it a big one.
Yep.
Make it a big one. Look, I've been goodwill hunting for a while now.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I like to play on words. I've been that for 3 or 4 years, so be open to a new one.
Okay.
But fantasy footy, again, it's going to form a big part of my life. So ipso facto will form a bit of a part of this podcast over the AFL fantasy months. AFLW started up. Our good friend of the family, I think, Moira's Magic, Selby Lestier, started up his own fantasy competition, aflwfantasy.com.au. I'm only mentioning that because there's a $5,000 prize.
It's huge.
If you win it, $5,000. I think there's only 1,500 people signed up, so you got a 1 in 1,500 chance of winning $5,000. I think you can still join. I had a little bit to do with it and kind of excited me. Does that give you any interest whatsoever?
Me playing?
Yes.
I don't
get
know.
off the fence.
No, I don't know enough about the AFLW players.
You can get a little autofill team. That's what I did actually.
Okay. Yep, I'll do it. I'm in.
You're
Charlie,
a week late.
you in?
I'll give it a shot.
But fantasy footy, I think what we should do there is have a league for BackChat. So some of the stats are starting to come out. There's some salary caps. Again, next week, we're going to have a league. If you want to join it, you want to join in.
This is huge.
A few things happening this week, mate. Last week I gave a little tease about going live as well.
Yep.
And I kind of had to listen back. We were trying to get what's her name on the show? Who did you speak to last week? What was the girl's name?
It was a couple weeks ago.
All right, a couple of weeks ago. I think it was last week. Sorry, 2 weeks ago.
On You Call It We Speak It?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You put me on the spot there, mate.
I'm sorry, mate. But I was cut off with live YouTube. So we're going to go live in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's true. Do you know the good thing about YouTube Live is, as the show is happening, you can watch it live, comment, questions. It's great.
Yeah.
People jump in. It's like you're watching a TV show together.
Correct. So they're the 3 big things that are happening. Beer with BackChat, Fantasy League with BackChat, live with BackChat.
Yep.
So live with BackChat's probably the last of those 3 that's happening, but we will get there at some stage. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
But we've got work to do, and we're going to do it because we love doing it.
You know what we haven't done for a little while? Media Watch.
Bam, 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 media watch. Let's go right now.
Well, Dan used to be an audio putter together in his previous life. And
Just to make jingles.
yeah, Media Watch, a little bit happening this week. Have you been following along?
Today, I was at work, and my job at the moment doesn't really mean that I'm keeping an eye on sort of general news. I do, but I don't. But the Djokovic thing, I was watching pretty closely just because it was everywhere. And it just seemed like there was twists and turns, and it was relatively interesting.
Media Watch, for those who are listening or watching that haven't seen this before, is usually not what's happening in the media, but it's a little bit of journalists and media types.
How the media cover certain things.
I tweeted, I personally think the coverage of Novak Djokovic has been sensationalist at best. That's a pretty much word for word what I tweeted. I also attached to that tweet.
What is your Twitter handle?
At Will Schofield.
Good.
Went real wide with it.
Okay.
I also attached a federal court submission by Novak Djokovic's team and said, have a read of this if you want to broaden your view a little bit on the entire situation. Because all that's getting put in the media right now is, oh, he did this on the 16th. He's taking a photo of this right there. He can't come in the country. If I can't cross the country and my family can't, then why should he enter? It's just speculation. And I just put out, this is the federal court submission. It was a 40-page document, have a read. And then about 3 hours later, I put the Australian government's submission to the court. And I just left that out there. And there was a few that weren't too happy about me calling out the media for being sensationalist covering it. I think it has been sensationalist. I think it's been taken out of the whack a little bit. But today, it probably has got a bit of sensational vibes around it.
Yeah, it's movie-like. There's talks of someone getting arrested, being detained, deported, banned from entering the country for a certain amount of time.
Do you want to see him play in the Aussie Open?
I don't. Honestly, I'm not enough of a big enough tennis guy.
4 in the world, mate.
Yeah, I know, but honestly, I'll watch the final maybe. If there's an Australian, I'll watch it. I don't care if he plays or he doesn't. That's my hot take on the situation.
If we want a hot take, I made it last night before the decision was handed down today. I think he'll be kicked out either this evening or tomorrow morning.
Yes, so this is
Monday.
A Monday.
Tuesday.
Unraveled.
Bye-bye, Djokovic.
You'll be watching this or listening to this on Wednesday night if you're a Patreon because you get early access, or Thursday morning.
I think the Australian government, this is a little bit legal, their statutory powers were being challenged by Djokovic's team, which means what's written into the Constitution, Djokovic's challenge is basically saying, I don't really agree with what you've been able to do here. If they let that slide, it will open the floodgates.
Precedent.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
I don't think they're going to let that happen. I've done about six units of a law degree.
You're a hair away from becoming a lawyer.
Yeah, I've done 6 of about 24. So, I've read a law book.
Yeah.
Pretty much a lawyer.
You're a quarter of the way closer to being a lawyer than I am.
I actually don't have an opinion on Djokovic. He should this. I just think it's been unclear. It's it's a bit embarrassing for the rest of the world how we've kind of handled it.
My take really actually is if the rules are being followed, you gotta back it up. If you're doing the right thing, following the rules, you got to commit to that. If not, yeah.
As ScoMo has said during the week,
oh gosh,
rules are rules.
There you go.
No exceptions.
Then stick to that.
Rules are rules.
And you know why?
That'll be written on your tombstone.
You know what the best thing about rules is that it makes things fun.
Please tell me more about that.
It puts great parameters in place to have a good time. Without rules, it's chaos,
Without further ado, I think we need to wrap this little introduction up. We've got a big guest coming into studio right now.
Yeah, Mr. Greg Hire. He's one of only 16 players in NBL history to win 4 championships with the team.
I see you've been reading that Wikipedia page down.
Oh, yeah. Also, I just love Greg Hire. Read his biography. I've got it on my bedside table.
You know what I'm keen to ask Greg about?
I don't know if he's got a biography, by the way. Yeah, what do you
if he's happy that you have a piece of his 2018 or 2019 championship, premiership net.
Nylon.
Here.
Yeah.
Right,
I'll show him.
All right. Welcome, people. The man is in the house. Greg Hire joins us. Hello, Greg.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Anytime.
What about the introduction?
It wasn't an immediate build-up or anything. Which is fine.
We don't do that, mate.
Not necessary.
all good.
Welcome. Cheers. Hey, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers. Look, maybe don't get through what Josh Garlett was able to get through last week. We've had some inquiries from some whiskey companies around town, actually, because he represented the brand very well. But we thought we might have lost Josh at the end of the night. He played a little practical joke on us, but you'll be right with just one glass of whiskey tonight, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I'm a little bit more responsible. And I do actually feel that I've insulted you because my good mates at Whippersnapper Distillery,
There you
as
go.
soon as you were drinking whiskies, I was like, you got to have a good drop, not saying Maker's Mark or whatever, isn't
It
it?
isn't. It isn't. Absolutely isn't. It's American, isn't it?
But yeah, I was sort of...
It's something to get us through.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as you guys continue rising up, I know
Yes.
you're obviously raising your profile of guests like myself.
Yes.
I didn't gift you, but it'll be next. I'll
Maybe
make
we
sure
could
that
give you a gift. We can give you a gift, Greg. So, mate, what we ask off the top for every guest we ever have in here, and we will get into exactly who you are for people who don't, maybe not big basketball fans. We ask our listeners, we ask our guests, what is the greatest sporting achievement you've ever had in your life? Not on the basketball court. So, look, we know you're a big-time basketball player. 15 players in the history of the NBL won 4 championships, and you're one of them. We know all about it. What have you done off the basketball court?
So this is going to be an interesting one because it's whether it's a sport or a hobby. Because I was a state chess champion at under 12.
Chess?
That is
yeah.
We haven't had chess.
And like I've still got when I introduce myself for speeches or anything, it has 4 times NBL champion, Pride of Australia medal recipient, and then I have state chess champion under 12.
Very good.
And I was ranked. I know you guys were talking about bowling last week.
Yes.
And I was like, geez, that's peculiar.
Cool.
I wouldn't go far.
Dan's very
I went to the
impressed.
team and we were throwing enough ball bag comments. I was having a slight chuckle, but yeah, I was like a chess champ. There was literally a newsletter that came out every month, and it would have your rankings and in WA, and I would go to schools, and there would be 200 nerds. You can imagine playing chess, and you'd have a ranked tournament, a proper all-timed, it could last for weeks, that sort of style. Or you'd have rapid clock, it's 5 minutes on the clock, you've just got to play. And it wasn't really much skill, it was just how quick you could go. And I got trumped one time because I was versing someone, I was this prodigy 11 Gary Kasparov Hungarian.
Yeah.
And I was in the quarterfinals, people was it's awesome. And I was I've got to go have a piss. And so I said to the person I was, can I just pause it? I really need to piss. And they're like, yeah, no worries. And they didn't pause it. So when I came back, I had 45 seconds and lost. And that I've been gutted from that day.
Why'd you stop playing? I'm so interested in this. I don't even want to talk about basketball. Why'd you stop playing? Why'd you stop playing chess? What
Mate, I've
stopped
had
you?
a really weird life. I remember as a 5-year-old, I was a model. I was a child model.
I can see that. Yeah.
And I literally...
we know why you stopped that.
yeah, but I was the only bloke with girl, and so sport, you're just not doing, it's not cool. Then went to chess. There's no pathways. My employment right now, there's no one. I'm not looking after.
I spoke to again, terrible by man. I can't remember his name. I spoke to Australia's leading. He's Australia's best ever chess player, and he spoke to me about his touring life as a chess player.
So he still goes around.
Incredible, mate. He would go from you produced me.
Yeah, I remember that. I was
You
just trying to
produced
think,
me.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was on ABC.
Where at? Oh, okay, yeah.
On ABC, no, this guy's legit.
Yeah.
Would compete across the world, and people put him up. He'd be getting stayed in Monte Carlo. He's staying in Dubai.
Well, Gary,
you could have had the world, mate.
That good. I would look at strategies. So, they would always have names for them. And I used to love it. I used to hustle people hard. So, I remember, my wife, I'd be and as you get older and you have kids, and you sort of need to work for things, I'd be like, hey, if I can beat you in 24 moves or less, can have some fun. And, yeah.
I got to say, this is
some fun.
This is the best. This is the best we've had.
sporting achievement.
Bogut beating Phil Hellmuth in a game of poker was good.
Yeah.
Look, Dan's 5 for 16 in a cricket match,
Bowling.
under 12s final.
In a final.
He's quite good, but chess
Got a trophy.
state champion.
It's over there, actually.
You said you wouldn't mention it. Shut up. I think it's about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep. It's very obscure as well.
So I gave you absolutely no introduction to start off with, mate, but that was deliberate. NBL, look, I'm going to call you a superstar. 4-time champion for the Perth Wildcats. You're a Perth Wildcats dynasty player. You've been a part of that for a long time. Stepped away now. Can you give our listeners, what sort of basketball player were you?
Yeah, when you said
your words.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't a superstar. I think we have a mutual respect because whilst there's an appreciation when you're playing for people like ourselves.
Yep.
So there's a role. So for basketball players, oppositions, and teammates, they love you. But for opposition fans or opponents, at times they hate you.
Why? What were you?
I was passionate, but then on borderline, it would be seen as dirty, which I didn't like. But I loved. I was passion was obviously understated. Like I was an energy guy. I would try and change the momentum of a game, which I'd done many times, and so I was happy enough to do so. But I had my role, but in saying that, I wasn't a shit player. I felt like the role at the Wildcats, especially, it breeds success. So you're not really going to step outside of those lines. Like, how do you go, well, I want an expanded role when you've got a guy like Bryce Cotton or those likes? And so, yeah, again, for me, it was setting the tone. And a way off the court a bit of a leader in that regard. Like I was unfortunately because I was like bad cop. Like I had to, Damo was the captain. He wanted to be everyone's best mate. Like for me, you can't be everyone's best mate. So I was that guy that was holding guys accountable. And unfortunately that sort of challenges friendships at times too. So yeah, I guess that was my role both on and off the court.
Well, that follows up my next question, which is how would teammates describe you as a player and teammate?
Oh, as a player, selfless. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, for me, I enjoyed other guys' success as much as mine. So and not knowing football as well, we call it the hockey pass. So it was like in 3 or 4 plays, I might cut here or screen there, or make that pass, which would then lead to an open 3 or another, or a good look. And so for that to go down was successful. Or it was like I'd come in, crash the board, get a loose ball, tap it away. We might get an extra possession, which then leads to that. Like that was for me which was what I was all about. Now for me, don't get me wrong, I love scoring points. I wasn't gifted. I wasn't gifted athletically. Didn't have the opportunities to do so. I didn't have never once could I remember in my last 6 years with Trev was a play called for me. Early in my career it was, but when Trev came in, it was very focused on 2 or 3 guys at a time, and other guys just that.
You're winning still, right?
Right, you're not going to complain in that regard. Absolutely. So, for me, if a teammate would describe me in that regard, selfless on the court, off the court, mate. As much as I would still hold guys accountable, I enjoyed getting to know each and every single guy and seeing what made them tick, what their why was, and then as well as trying to expose them to things that I struggled with, but then as well getting an understanding of how I can help support them. Sports so much, everyone sees from the outside. It's scoring a bucket it's a roller coaster. And so for guys, confidence dipped, it was easy enough just to go grab a coffee or a beer and just find out what was going on. And I love that. That for me was what actually I enjoyed the most, especially later in my career.
Last one, and then you can get right into it. How would fans describe you as a player? So you've done how would you describe yourself? How would teammates describe you? How would fans describe you as a player?
Yeah, mate, it's an interesting one. Even Wildcat fans, I think they're very similar. I guess they're Wildcat fans, but when things are rolling, they love you. And that was actually really a tough thing that I never actually really dealt with appropriately when it was my career, was dealing with fans loving you for a second, but then next week telling you that you shouldn't even be playing, and so to your face. So For me, they would obviously appreciate my role, but again, it wasn't. It's not something that the casual fan sees, and that's changed from Wildcats, where, like, say, my very first years as Challenge Stadium days, it's 4,000 fans. Generally, most of them have this inept passion and knowledge of the game, a basic knowledge, right? Now it's 11,000 fans. A lot of people taking their kids, and their knowledge base isn't as much. Now, they might believe so, but they're new fans, right? Like, you just don't miraculously bring in 7,000 more people. So with that,
it's a good thing, but a double-edged sword, right?
a great thing. But sometimes people would be like saying to me, like, yeah, the impact or whatever, and you wouldn't see it. Like, you'd have a review of a game, and they would clip up 10 great clips and go like, this is the reason why we were able to get buckets was because of Greg right here. But no one would ever see that.
They aren't putting that on.
Yeah,
No stat for
Fox
that.
Sport.
and the crowd doesn't see that, the hockey pass or the screen away from the ball. And that was evident. Like, I mean, I remember going to my first game after I retired, and like the Wildcats lose, and they're blasting guys like in the grandstand, and I'm like, that guy actually had a heck of a game, you know. So yeah, they're not saying they're not the majority, but you know, it's our brains are wired to see that negative, so it starts catching up. But you know, opposition fans, there was always even. I think when I retired, you know, when you're in there, you don't really see much. Like, you're always seeing that negative sort of side. But once I retired, that was actually pretty, like, sort of refreshing. Like, both our own fans, but opposition fans, having that mutual respect. And in the end, they know I played in the right way. In the end, we got championships. Like, so I was never going to say my role was valuable, pivotal at times as well. So, strong in that regard. Yeah.
When you're pulling someone up, what sort of things are they doing? You said you're sort of a leader off the court. Like, are they just acting up in training, or are they not fulfilling like a certain role? Like, what sort of things trigger you to be like, oh man, I need to flip this guy?
One thing that was huge for me was effort, and that was at training. Like, training is more brutal than the game. Like, especially for us bench guys, like, because games, like, I wasn't ever guaranteed court time. So, like, I could actually do more of a warm-up than I do as a game. Like, I'd spend an hour and a half getting ready for a game to play 8 minutes. And so training was brutal, like 5 days in a row where you're going at it and you're trying to get minutes. So for me, that's the one thing I knew I could always control. Like, was, you know, like, if a guy was a soft cock, like, if they were challenged but they didn't respond, like, I hated losing. Like, I hate losing Monopoly, like, hate losing chess. Like, I hate that. So in come training, if, like, I didn't see that, like, if guys didn't have that hunger, irrespective of they were good enough, like, I didn't care. But it was like that, like, because there's so many other things. And basketball's funny like that. You see it even now, like, everyone thinks it's so technical, but at times it's like a raise of energy and intensity is the difference in the game. Like, that creates deflections, it creates, you know, easy transition buckets, it creates, you know, second chance opportunities. So that for me was big. We were fortunate though, like, in that 10 years as a Wildcats player, like, we didn't really have too many strong personalities. And so, like, the only times is Americans, like, they're the only real ones. And Wildcats recruited well. Like, they never had that issue. And if they ever, you know, it's pretty easy to say, like, if someone's like, oh, who was a shit teammate, you'd go, well, how long did they stay for? You know, like, guys that weren't longest tenured, like, they generally moved on for a number of reasons. Not saying overrun, but that generally was the same thing across the line. So that was a key thing.
Without the risk of sounding like a couple of old blokes going out who have retired from the game, did you, which we both have and we both
Three of
are.
us.
Did you see, you talk about soft cocks, and I know exactly what you mean about that effort, and it's not soft and being a man, it's that effort, it's that the contest, right? That it's a training that I want to compete.
Yeah.
Did you see that decline as time went on? Did you see that decline, or you feel like it declined as you got older with more experience, younger guys coming into the team? Did you think generationally, or was it the same throughout? Some guys had it, some guys didn't.
Nah, it stayed consistent with the Wildcats, but I can guarantee you I coached under 20s state last year because I wanted to get back and start going, and that was like a struggle. like I'm an assistant coach, so you're supposed to be the real positive guy. But like that was like a coaching thing I saw across the board. Like it was like there was no like heart or hunger. Like and I see it. Wildcats was always good, but I look at it like opposition teams and why they're not successful. Like when they lose, I like look at the like now retired. I like to see the reaction of a player. Like there's not. I was pissed. Like if I lost, like I wouldn't want to talk to anyone. Like it was like review. We'd have to do our things. I was like home and like, you don't speak to your wife. Like it was like don't talk to me. I don't get any sleep. I'm watching the game. Like where is like I don't see that sometimes now. Like you watch the NBL games, and the guys are like laughing, and you're like, there's a reason why you're not successful. Like it doesn't hurt enough, and that was like when I was under 20. Like they would joke around and then like get in the elevator. And don't get me wrong, I'm being all jovial, and like these kids are not NBL players, but I'm like, that's the standards it needs to be at that level, and so. Like, that's where it's at training. Like, if you can't, like, hate losing or, like, getting pantsed, like, there'll be drills where, like, yeah, Bryce is an absolute freak, but, like, you don't just sit there and take it. Like, you've got to, like, respond. And so that's why I've definitely seen shift, like, on a junior level. But for Wildcats, even until I retired, it never was the case. And it'd be interesting to see. I don't think there'll be much change with them this year because it's the first year of a new ownership change, so I don't think, but I think in 2, 3, 4, the DNA, I wouldn't be surprised if that shifts for sure.
Do you sit back and reflect on your time as a player and tell those stories about not speaking to your wife? And I know you're half joking, but you're half not, because I do the same thing. Go home, shut the blinds, shut the doors, watch the game. Do you sit back now and think, like, it would be nice to have just pulled myself out of the situation and be like,
yeah,
or is it? I needed to be like that to succeed.
Yeah, I think so. I was just wired in that way. Like, I think like, I that point, I loved everything I did though. Like, and I think that's why I retired the time I did, because it started being too consuming. Like it affected. Like I had 2 young kids. I knew it was starting to take a toll on my wife. Like in terms of. Not saying I'm treating her shit, but like, yeah, you'd get home. The toughest thing that I had to deal with in my last couple of years was, it's a results-driven industry, no doubt, but like our last year was the worst year in terms of ebbs and flows and wins and losses, to the point where it affected like our livelihoods, to the point where you'd read you open a newspaper, there's talk about, my name's you potential be who would you replace? Greg High, Tom Jervis, Clint Steindl, to the point where then I'm catching up with mates and coaches about who could potentially get fired, who's getting replaced, to that actually happening. And so that for me took away from the game why I loved it. Like I was like, I don't want to be driving home after a game fearing for my mate to lose his job or my own job. I didn't want to. No longer was it fun.
Sorry, it's important for people that don't know, this year that you're talking about, your last year, you won the flag.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you won a premiership in this year. Right?
Absolutely. And in saying that, I finished off in the most perfect manner because of a championship. But the reason why was because I literally sat there. We were, again, I think we're at a point where we lost a few games, and I was like, thinking, like I said to my wife, I was like, I'm done, and she's like, just stay with it a couple of weeks, see how it turns. And we won a few games, and like my minutes were ebbing and flowing. And the thing was, and I'm not saying this, I wouldn't blow smoke. Like I was training like the best I've ever done. Like I felt the best I've ever done. My body felt good. Like I was training amazing. And so what was frustrating was. And I love Trev, the Trevor Gleeson, the coach, was like, I'd train, then get ready to a game and be like, I'm ready to go. Like, I've never felt confident. Confidence is a hell of a thing. And so I'm like, yep, sweet. And then I wouldn't even get to step on the court. And so, like, up until maybe the second quarter, 3 minutes into it. And so I've got all this energy. So frustration. Then we would lose. And then you were like, well, I don't know what more I could do. Like I trained the house down, but I don't have the moment, the opportunity to actually show that I can do something or impact the game. So it got to a point where I was like, obviously I got caught up too much in the fans and the media and seeing that. Like it was a very poor thing on my behalf that I just got too consumed in that world. And so I remember calling, I called my assistant coach and I was like, mate, I'll retire. Bring in an import. If that's the reason, don't just keep me because I'm a club stalwart and it'll look poor. I'll retire. I'll come up with some lie and say, injury or whatever. He's like, nah, not happening. And anyway, yeah, there was a few rumours and few things happening. There was some changes going to be had. And anyway, that was the deadline. You couldn't actually make any more
additions,
roster changes. But that didn't subside. Like 3 weeks later, I still had that same feeling. And so I was like, I don't want this. I could continue on doing this for 4 or 5 years. We can continue winning games. But obviously that's not providing the happiness. And so for me, that joy was lost for a moment there. And that was why I was like, you know what? I think it's the right time to move on. Because I never wanted to be at a point where a coach just goes, hey, you're not good enough in that regard. And too prideful in that manner. To the point where, I remember 6 weeks after our championship got done, I was having a red wine with Trev and Damo, and he goes, mate, you retired at the wrong time. And I'm like, no, yeah, we can agree, disagree. But he's like, would you consider coming back? And I was like, nah, to try and, because there was still a lot of movement. So look, I feel comfortable. Do I look back and go, do I think about it? Yeah, there's a few things I think early in the piece, if I could have managed a lot better early in my career. But hey, hindsight's a hell of a thing, and you can't do that. So, but yeah, no, it was a difficult thing, and in essence, and I don't know, you would appreciate this. It came from Matt Nielsen. I remember going over to his. He was having a few frothies at the casino watching the Super Bowl, and we're talking, and I asked him. He's a maybe 3-time Olympian, Boomers captain, unbelievable human, and I said to him, your retirement, can we talk about that? And he goes, mate, I had the most perfect way to retire after the London Olympics. I'm in the middle of the court, and he goes, look, I had an incredible career. We played for Madrid. He was playing against Barcelona. He goes, I'm watching the Super Bowl today and I see some cornerback that makes a play that no one appreciates. The play didn't even happen, but he was the difference of why there was an incomplete pass or whatever. And he thinks of a memory when he was in Spain of that exact moment, and he goes, do I miss it? And he's like, yeah, absolutely, I miss it every fucking day. But he goes, but I retired perfectly. And for me, I was like, yeah, you're right, you're going to miss it, you can't help
regardless.
It. Right, and everything you do, you can't, there's no recipe, there's no formula to get that feeling of running on a basketball or a footy field.
Can't play forever.
Right, so it's just trying to find that being content with that career and not wanting more.
Interesting you say that, because I was actually working at the Wildcats that last season, and I remember all the pressure from the outside, get that third import, and there were those names, got to, such and such has got to leave, retire, but there was always this sort of idea from the club, no, we're sticking to our guns, and we're really confident in our team, but interesting that you have this actual perspective that in real talk, you were actually no, let me go.
There was definitely discussions. It was the most toxic environment for a period of time, for 2 weeks. Knowing that that there was rumblings, that were there. It's no longer in an age where when I started 8 years ago, social media, whilst it was an amazing thing to get verified on Twitter, you couldn't get news to get leaked was big, right? Whereas now it was
it's the reverse. If it doesn't get leaked, it's big.
Yeah, exactly right. And so you couldn't escape that. And so to the point where my mum, I remember one time calling me and being like, oh, hey, there's a job at City of Joondalup available. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, it said you were going to get fired. And I was like, yeah, I know. Chill out. So no, there was definitely rumblings. And as there always is, and I think the Wildcats turned to this beast, it always has been for a formidable period of time, but for the last no longer was it. It was when I started, it was make sure you don't you're not that team to not make playoffs. It's like now it's like it's a championship or bust.
Yeah.
Like it's literally at that point, which is funny because you're like that club and organisation is like that. History is ridiculous. Like you're spoiled.
One of the most successful clubs in any sport in any history.
Yeah, and from a national competition, like I mean they've done everything to even out the comp. It's a joke that they've been able to sustain that for the amount of period of time to a high level for that. Yeah, in 7 championships and like in that sort of area is the joke.
For those playing along at home, there is a lot of similarities between Greg's role in the team and my role in the team at West Coast. And there's a lot of similarities between Perth Wildcats and West Coast, in my opinion, with success. West Coast have been a successful team, as successful as there's ever been in the AFL. If you look at the amount of time they played finals, premierships won in the seasons they've been in the thing, and that's the same as the Perth Wildcats. Like you've lost grand finals, you've won grand finals. Just thinking which one I want to ask you about first. Losing grand finals, did those emotions drive you at all through your career, or is it like that happened towards the start of your career? You played back-to-back losses in grand finals. Did that drive you?
Yeah,
that feeling.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, especially early in my career, I think my rise was pretty quick, and I think that added to. It's funny, I look at now a lot of when I was a development player, like I wasn't even guaranteed, like I was on $6,000 a year, worked 3 jobs, and I loved being
$6,000.
Yeah,
what were you doing? $6,000.
I was working.
Did you have to have another job?
Mate, I worked 3 jobs. Yeah, like.
What was your time commitment? Like how much time did they want you there?
As much, and even more because I was like, I've got to put myself in a position that if a spot opens up next year.
Yeah, you'd be better, right? You'd be working harder than that.
So so I was calling the assistant coach and saying like, "Hey man, can I get a workout in?" And manipulating the situation a little bit because like the assistant's like, "Why would I continue working at this guy that's not even playing?" So he'd be like, "It's false hustle." But I just wanted to be like, I don't want someone to say he's not working hard enough. So like I was going above and beyond. So I worked 3 jobs, and it was literally I was like after that year, like I had games on the road, And that was the thing, you're crying out for opportunity. Like, so many players that are talented, but they never get a chance to play. And you wonder, like, would have they been good enough for the NBL or the whatever? You just don't know. But I had that. Like, I had, a few guys get injured, so I was on the road a lot, which was awesome for 2 reasons. You got a game payment, which is $1,000. And so, like...
Love matches.
Mate, so I was like... Yeah, I remember on a road trip where I went, like, Sydney, Melbourne, New Zealand, like, was, like, halfway there. But I was stupid. Like, I was going out with Damo and Drew Williamson. And so they're obviously, like, Damo's highest paid player. And he's like, oh, let's go out for the night. He's young, no kids. And so I'm, like, spent my whole match payment in like, a night out. But... loved it. Like it was, and so for me, I was like, it's the experience. And so when that season got done, there was no roster spots, and I was like, all right, I'm doing like job interviews out of my ass. Like I was like, oh, whatever, and I ended up picking up a job, City of Subiaco at Lord's Recreation Centre as like a manager, and of sport of the competitions, and then Stephen Way, who was playing, literally opts out of his contract, wasn't happy with his role, and I'm like, that's the opportunity. I was like, that's the one spot, is the spot that could be available for me. And it was between me and Tom Jervis, one of my best mates. They were open and honest. Like, Bevo was really good. And so it was like we had the SBL season. I literally was like every single weekend I had to like dominate. Like, and like I was having like games, I was like 40 and 20, triple doubles. Like, but then I'd get off my phone, go in the change room, be like, what's Tom on? And he's like 36 and 20. And I'm like, far out. Like, and then they literally announced it before the semi-final. They're like, Greg, you've got a contract. And so that was like good. And I wasn't even expecting any court time. And sort of my role grew until my second year. Cameron Tovey gets hurt, osteopubis. And so I just got up the pecking order real like forced in a way. And to the end, so when we lost these grand finals, I was no longer like the 11th, 10th man. I was like, ended up starting. And so for me, that rise, like it was this incredible thing. And I think, mate, I had this incredible 2 years, like where I, got my very first contract to the point where I got dropped for a game because we had an 11-man rotation and doing burnouts out of challenge because I was pissed off. To then playing grand final games.
Let's just wind that back, please. What were you doing out of Charlie?
No,
we were spinning the wheels.
No, we were playing at Challenge Stadium, and we literally, the coaches would say who's playing, and we had this rotation policy, 11 guys, and it was my rotation, but I was playing well, and we're playing someone, and I hated, like, I was like, if you're going to drop me on an away game, like, you know, then it's like whatever. I was like at home, family, like I love that stuff. Sundays, you're going to go out for a Sunday session and all that. On the way out, they're like, "Oh, Greg, you're not playing," and I was like, "What?" And so then I was livid, and so I literally had this old Toyota Camry that I bought off Damo, and I literally just did this massive burnout, like out of the car park, and then like someone called me and was like, "Was that you?" And I was like, "No, not." But to the point where then that second grand final we lost in a row, I had gastro on the eve. No one knew, talking about like everyone hit it. So I lost 6 kgs like for that week, and then had to play. And I literally, to a point where I was like, I don't think I can play. I couldn't eat, couldn't do anything, shoot around. I was literally in the bathroom. I remember calling Jeremiah Truman, and I was like, "Mate, I think you're gonna have to suit up." And then as I walked downstairs, I was like, "There's no chance I'm not playing." So they just loaded me up on medicine, like to clog me up, and we ended up nearly losing, nearly winning. But that was that motivation. Like I was like, "How close are we?" God, if I was healthy, like if I, like I was sick for a week. And it was just this awesome rise. Like we went to Bali off-season trip, came back. I was literally sitting in a cinema and I get a phone call. I'm like, "Who's this?" And it's like, "This is so-and-so from the Boomers. We've had a few guys pull out. Are you available for a camp?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." Like, and I was like, "Geez, not the right time to be in Bali." But like
straight to Kuta Airport.
Yeah, but like that was just this incredible rise. And it was awesome. Signed my biggest contract, signed a 3-year deal, and then Bevo leaves. Trev comes, and his first thing's like, "You're not going to start." And so that was like just this massive, like, "Oh, all right, like no worries." But in saying that, the success changed. We started winning championships. My role definitely diminished to what it was, but take those 4 championships any day. Like, don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have played a bit more and had a bit more impact. But in saying that, like when we finally won that first one that following season, and obviously those, like, each championship was so different. It was pretty bloody special.
The West Coast analogy kind of thing that I use for winning games, and how West Coast and Perth Wildcats are similar. I was going to ask, how did the Wildcats deal with winning championships to be able to do it over and over? Like, there is a case to be made that, like, winning back to back or winning multiple in an era, in a dynasty, there is. How did you do it? If that's not too broad of a question, like, what is it?
Yeah, it's I mean, like, there's always a few qualities, and I think it remains the same, right? Like, you've got to have talented guys. There's no doubt about that. Like, there's no doubt you've got to ride a lot of luck. And even the years we didn't win, like, that was the thing, we weren't lucky. Like, injuries fell at the wrong time. Like, I remember a few years we were doing well, then Sean Redditch gets injured, I get injured, and someone else gets injured. Like, and that was the 3-peat year. And momentum, like, I think it really helped us, like, our group. Like, we had this real, and even like in the back end of my career, like, we had this, like, core group of vets that's, like, busted their ass. Like, and that was the thing, like, you see it now, and, like, I love seeing Jesse being so successful. But, like, as I said, training was no joke. Like, and so even imports that would come in, like, they knew, like, it was a grind, like, it was brutal. And that's why Bryce is special, because, like, he actually, as talented as he is, like, he could sit on the sideline and play 2K and everyone would be like, "Oh, it's Bryce Cotton," right? But, like, guys, like, works his absolute tail off, I think, sometimes to his detriment, hence the injuries, because he trains to the level that I guess the Australians do. So, like, I think that's helped.
Did you just celebrate?
Oh, mate, yeah. It was our very first year. Our biggest sponsor was Alcohol Think Again. And so it was like 2014. So the club was like, "You got to get out of WA." So we're like, "Oh, this is perfect.
damn
and
it.
so
Shame.
they're like, so they paid for us to go to Bali, and it was like, mate, absolutely like all. I remember like the person at like our community advisor was like, "Oh, Greg, come in our office. You have to, you choose the accommodation." I was like, "Is there a budget?" And they're like, "Oh, look, keep it in between this.
Be reasonable, please.
Yeah, and I was just like, "Yeah, no worries." And we like got this like, I think like this 8-bedroom, like it was a
Mansion.
yeah, like in Uluwatu or somewhere like a joke, and get in and private chef puts on this massive seafood feast as I walk in of like a pig, like, and I'm just like
Bubby Gouling.
it was
Bubby
like
Gouling, mate.
this is the way we're living. And so like for me that was the first time I was like, I felt like an NBA guy. Like we went to every single place, even like Potato Head or the W, and like there was no issue. Like you're like
Kings.
Yeah, Sean's having shisha, like a weird dude. Like
Sean.
Mate,
People who don't know Sean.
mate,
Sean
is-
Redditch, big American, big
guy from Nebraska, like.
big fella.
But that was the hilarious thing. Like Sean was like, he drinks ciders when we go out. Like he'd have like 2 or 3, and then like he'd be drunk like straight away. But this guy was like, and it was stupid. Like we were on scooters and everything. Like I was like, why did they send us to Bali of all things? Like it's
West Coast would never get that across the line.
No, and it was like, so we got on, but I remember like we went on like scooters for a bit, and then we got back to the hotel. There was like a snake going into the room, into the complex. Yeah, real snake. And so everyone just started running. Sean picked it up and like started chasing James Ennis, who was the import, who was leaving for the NBA for and threw it at him.
A fucking snake.
Mate, and Jimmy rolled his ankle. And so we were in hysterics. So we were just like at Sean, like, what's going on? And like, mate, 10 minutes later, he was like, shots. And people were like, I'm not having a shot. And he's like, oh, yeah, pussies. And I'm like, what? This man is possessed. Like, I was like we can't, like.
Sean in Bali's another beast.
Mate, like this. And so Jimmy was livid, was like, I'm about to go to Miami. I've rolled my ankle. And I'm like, man, like, this is.
He rolled his ankle getting away from a snake thrown by Sean Redditch.
So,
is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So it was unreal. And so then that actually was like the motivating factor. We signed Nate Jaiwai 2 years later, and that trip went across the league. And so they're like, was it true you guys went to Bali? And so, and the Wildcats ball, which is like this big thing. They were like, the only way you can go to Bali is if you do a week full of dance rehearsals. So our MVP night is like the biggest night in the Wildcats calendar. Like it's more important than championship. Like they literally, the players do a players review, like footy show style, but like, and then it's on steroids. And they literally, you do
so much choreography.
Is this not publicised? I've never heard of this in my
They
life.
keep it like
In-house.
the corporates do it well, but they never publicise much. And they make guys like dressed up in like.
They do like video skits, and they've kept under wraps.
Yeah.
Like you'd be hard pressed to find one.
Who's there?
Like all fans and corporates, like corporates. So it's like $1,500.
The tickets are pricey.
Mate,
so
$400 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a joke, and it's done well. Like,
Love that.
I think I'm going to be banned from now on. But
Why?
I'll get to that. But, so they literally.
I feel like I just let you talk, mate.
The story they said, oh, we'll pick you up and we'll take you straight to the studios to do dance rehearsals. That was the one option for doing going to Bali, and they literally picked us up. We went to KFC, and then for like 5 days we had like dance rehearsals. But 2 years later, Nate Jaiwai, they're like, all right, we're gonna go to Bali, and they didn't. They were like, they spin up too big, and they were like, nah, we're just going to keep it in-house. And so he was gutted. But then,
So it was like the myth. It was like the, myth. It was like the...
Never happened again. And then after that, I was like, with kids and anyway, Mad Mondays is like our one time to be a moment to shine. And then...
Tell me why you're banned from this ball. Don't.
No, so this year, obviously with COVID, they didn't do any reviews. So they didn't do any dances. Right. No, like they did a couple of player reviews. So they were like, and the player reviews, dances are like the biggest part. Like they honestly, it's a joke in a good way. Yep. So they go, all right, this year we'll bring back like a bunch of the players, panel discussion.
Veterans.
Yeah, and they brought up all the videos of our previous dancers and previous skits, and they were like going to talk about them. And so it was like literally Brad Robbins, maybe Cameron Toe, myself, Damo, Sean, and then a couple of players, current players. And so they're like asking things and they're like doing the videos. And I was like, well cut. Like I was like, yeah, I'm definitely like feeling
Couple of
good.
whippersnappers.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyway, I was like, this is so boring. Like no one is enjoying us like just talk like this. So like my first line, like they were talking about, Damo was like doing, like he was being real proper. And I was like, and I thought I was really disappointed because that's a guy that like me and him have a lot of banter. So I was like, why is he like this? Like, what's he trying to sell? Like, you know, is he trying to
Houses.
network? Yeah, right. He's selling 8 things. And
What's
then
his agenda?
so then
Houses.
so
Sorry,
so literally I just go like in the middle of him speaking, I just cut in and I go, Damo, let's be serious. But like through every single skit or video, you would get half a stiffy and tie an elastic band around it. And then they just stopped. Like they stopped.
Crickets?
And no. The whole crowd lost it. Like, and everyone.
Oh,
Like,
good.
No, and so then I was like...
Lost it in a good way or a bad way?
No, they loved it.
Okay,
They
of course
were, and
they
I knew, because I knew that group. Like every single Wildcats ball, you would have been there.
Oh, yeah.
Like I used to, at the end, I'd be the DJ. Like, so I was like... I actually thought there'd be times where I'd get called into the office after the season and I'd say, Greg, we're letting you go because of your antics at the ball. And I'd go... No, I understand. Like, not because I'm a bad basketball player, because of...
I accept that.
Yeah, like...
I can accept that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've called Damo, you said Damo gets a little bit of a half
Yeah,
yawn.
and then every video, like, because he's renowned, he has a snail's trail, and so I was like, why do you not shave that shit? And I was heaping it. But the whole time, I'm thinking, Damo's going to jump in, and he wouldn't. And then... I was still like, what's your agenda? And then he was like, actually, everyone's like, what? I've never seen Damo not speak. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, but I was on fire. And so I saw our CEO like months and like I was avoiding all Wildcat stuff. Like someone's like, really? Stiffy? Like, I was like, yeah, inappropriate.
People still say that?
Maybe not the first thing that you say, but...
So what was Damo's angle? Is he coaching now?
No. He's mate. He's
Is this
just
after he
wheels
had
and deals.
retired?
Yeah. It was after he retired. I don't know. I don't know whether he
Trying to be
wasn't drunk. And I
wedding
was done.
celebrant or
Like,
something.
yeah, he was. Yeah, it's still. But his angle is he's going to be asked to speak plenty more times, and I'll never be asked. I'll be like. Only asked if
You've just blinded
like
up.
at the pre like function that like Wildcat like supporters do for themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I
so
love that.
Don't mind it.
Especially if Damo's going to get paid for it as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
We've got this clip to show you. It's not NBL, but I wanted to show you a little bit earlier because you were talking so much about energy,
Yep.
spark, and how much that can change a game. I'm not sure if you saw this from today, and if you're watching this, I will put this on YouTube if you're listening to it. This is Ja Morant from Memphis Grizzlies. I just got to see and get your sort of reaction as someone that does that sort of thing. So
It would be so much fun.
So you go and dunk that the other way.
those sort of hops. Let's see what he
Nah, just
gets some contact.
we'll get some later though.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those sorts of highlights not sort of few and far between in the NBL, but there are some big dunks and stuff that happens.
yeah.
What is sort of the energy that gives off on the court? Because the crowd goes crazy, especially because of the the things go the smoke machine.
Mate, like that. I mean, even that Staples. Like the one thing, and I don't underestimate. Like I thought his arm was more impressive. Like he's just jumped nearly over the backboard. Was how quick he went and got the ball. Like he literally nearly
he's a
tears his
post.
ACL. Like
You know why he ran so fast? He turned it over.
yeah, no,
why.
that's
He's
absolutely
the one who caused that.
But see, like that, he's pinned it, and then joke. But like, oh mate, that was the Wildcats like that. Like but see, they have an appreciation. Like you take a charge, a hustle play. Like Bryce, like dunks, like Casey Profer when he dunked an AJ Ovi was like one of the best things I've like ever seen. Like I was just like, oh my god, like guys nuts all over some guy's face. Like in a grand final series or semi final, I can't remember what it was. Like you can't help and get consumed. And like, yeah, you just, even that, like when that as much as you go, like you don't really feed into the fans, like you can't hear them. Like it is what it is. Like you would only hear them when like there was a dry spell and you weren't hitting shots, and then like every time you missed a shot, they'd be like, oh, and you're like, it's not like I'm trying to miss.
I was going to ask that about the fans and the crowd, different to AFL being in a smaller stadium, but it's like an amphitheater.
Yeah.
Is there more? Well, you won't know what it's like, but like, can you?
No,
I never. By the crowd?
No, like challenge you would, like you'd hear people later in timeouts like call you out, like or whatever.
Hey, Greg,
and then but
get a rebound.
Opposition fans would like in other places like Illawarra. Mate, like their fans like were vulgar. Like you'd hear, like to the point where you'd like look back and be like,
"Did you just say that?"
Yeah, and there's like 8 kids and like and a mum is standing there with like one time like a mum with her like baby and her chest like yelling at us. Like I'm like, oh my God, like not only are you raising children, like
there's a lot of pre-game hype. There's a lot of pre-game carry-on. A lot of carry-on, smoke machines, pyrotechnics, game announcers.
Wilbur swing from the ceiling.
Yeah, like the worst is that's the thing is like, especially it's TV. So you might have it and then you'd see the game clock get put on like for another 4 minutes. And like, you know, like the strength and conditioning coaches, like they want everything like meticulous, like they want you sweating at the right time. And so then like they'd be like 6 minutes and then they'll run it, no more shooting or whatever. And you just be like, you don't need that. Like, you know, just, there is, as I said, there is like, but that's why the arena's loved. Like footy fans, like it's West Coast Eagles, right? Like, unless they have 8 bad seasons in a row, they're still going to be, you know, like everyone's going to go from it's the number one sport, number one team. Whereas people like when they go, like you speak to fans, they're like, not how good are the Wildcats, like how good's the game, like how good's
experience,
how good's the smoke thing. I'm like, I don't know that, like you know, that's why my kids like going now. So
I want to ask you about that shortly.
Before we get to that, I know you played. So you went from backtracking a bit on your career, went from high school then to the States, college, Georgia and Montana.
Yeah.
What's it like playing college ball crowds, things like that, compared to, say, the NBL? Because college fans are pretty
I
passionate.
see the levels are different. I went to Montana. It was population of 1,000 people, more cattle than people. There was literally one street. Like, and again, like you couldn't search. There was no like. I typed in Miles City. Just seemed like a good town. Like I didn't know, like I couldn't, there was no much research. Like they sent me out a DVD, you know, like to here's this, and I was like, this is awesome. But I always wanted to get up there. But I remember like coach picked me up, took me in, he goes, this is the street and the only street. And I was like, you're joking. And then like the next morning I'm like, he's actually not joking. But I loved it, like just to be in that system where you know, like I had to grow up like cooking, cleaning, being on time, like all these things that, like when you're in Perth, you know, obviously you have to, you looked after in a way. So Georgia was better. It was like more of a college experience, like where we were really good. The town were the only like team in that town.
You were like the big sport of the college.
Yeah. And it was that college experience, like red cups, you know, like
Yep.
Halloween party was like the whole, you know, school was there and, you know, like that tailgating and all that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, you got caught up in that. Like it was awesome. Like, you know, they'd storm the court after we won like our conference championship, like go back to your apartment, like the whole school's at your apartment, like that sort of stuff. So yeah, like that was in that experience. But, you know, that's like even guys that now stay here and they try and start their professional career, unless they're guaranteed, like they're legit, like a Luke Travers that is a potential NBA guy. If a guy is like, now the NBL are paying more money, I'm like, just go there for the experience. You know, I mean, like American sports is just on steroids. Like it's like experience that life, like get it, because if you're being offered when you're 18, more likely going to be offered when you're 22. Like you'll be better. But you don't get those experiences like you grow up. Like, you know, it's just so good to, like it was the best time in life. Like I wasn't paying rates and worrying about bills. Like,
am I the only guy here that hasn't been to an American college? Is that it?
Yeah, I guess so.
No, but you did like You went to Texas like Longhorns games, didn't you?
Oh, I went to a game, but like all I wanted to do was go sit in the school in the student area.
Yeah.
I was sitting there like some pleb fan, like
Yeah.
with all the adults, all the parents, like all the like lifelong fans. Just watching the bay with
you
the
had
kids.
to pay for tickets.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. No.
Oh, that's it.
When you're a student, you don't
Oh,
do that.
okay, cool.
What
Yeah,
about
yeah.
then the process of NBA draft, like nominating for that?
Yeah, I was never nominating.
So then how does your, like, obviously I've just ripped this completely out of Wiki.
Yeah.
So then how does that like process happen? Someone go, do you want to just give it a crack or?
No, like, so obviously, like, I had like an agent like saying, oh, would you be keen? But he was never like really. The reason why he was looking after me was he was looking after my roommate. So like Ben Madgen. So he was literally like, all right, like,
Who's your friend?
Yeah, you know, can you get me in contact with him, sort of thing. And so I had like nothing real concrete. And then like I got back to Perth and I was like, shit, like what do I do? Cairns Taipans like hit me up, come out for a development play contract, which I went, and then they were like, well, we'll give you a contract. And then the Wildcats at the same time, Rob Beveridge was like, mate, I'll give you a contract, development player. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to move, you know, like
$6,000 a year.
Yeah. Cairns didn't even offer any money. It was like, we'll bring you a spot and then you'll have to work. Like I was working for the Great Barrier Reef, like tours. Like that was their perk. We'll hook you up with a job.
Crazy.
And I was just like, so Wildcats is like, I was like, I'm living at home, you know, my partner's from here, like all that sort of stuff. So it worked out well. But yeah, it's nuts. Like for a lot of those guys, it's changed ridiculously now. Like the development system now, it's minimum 40,000, which is more significant.
I've got a couple of questions asked before. I want to ask what you're doing now. Do you know that a current West Coast Eagles player was one of the morph suit lads that would run around before games at Perth Wildcats? Did you know that?
No, who?
You get one guess and you can have one more guess. The saga continues a little bit here on BackChat. I will reveal who it is if it is the correct guess.
Oscar Allen.
You're kind of in the right areas. Like it's
I just thought of a WA guy and he's a basketball.
smart,
I was his coach.
Smart.
Under
Good enough to make it, Oscar Allen?
No. Under 12s, I was the head coach.
He was probably just tall, right?
Yeah, he was good.
At least he was playing sport. You were chess champion.
I honestly, I don't even want to have a guess. I can't think of anyone.
All right, perfect. Well, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong. Charlie, you want to guess,
at
mate?
least try.
Nah,
You want one more guess? You don't want one more guess?
I'd just get it wrong.
I'll take all
I've
your
got nothing.
guesses.
Yeah, go on.
So I reckon it's a mature age draft pick then. I don't even know who they are now.
He's a current West Coast Eagle. Like a first 22 guy.
Oh, okay. Tom Barras?
That's who it is.
That is correct.
Well done.
Tommy Barras was a morph suit man for the Perth Wildcats for 2 years. Wow. He was one of the guys. That's a very fucking good question, Greg. We might have to get him on the podcast to ask him that question.
Is he getting paid?
I don't think so.
Minimum,
I don't
sure.
know.
Yeah,
that.
you know that.
$70 a game or something. I don't know.
$70 a game, that's pretty good. He would be young. I'm not saying he wasn't doing it while he was playing for West Coast.
He's still doing it, actually.
He wasn't doing it while he was playing.
I would
This is
appreciate
like
that
15.
so much more. Like, imagine if he was running out and you're like, fuck, that guy's massive.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah. And then they're like, is that Tom Barras? Like,
Oh, that's very good. And what about, why aren't you NBL players dressing up like NBA players? Before
Mate, I'd
games?
love to.
Never a thing?
No, because Wildcats are like that. This is black pants, polo. And
No, I had to wear
It's West Coast.
I'd wear a suit every
And
day to
white
work.
West
sponsors.
Coast.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's that. But it was always like, yeah, black, yeah.
Look proper.
Yeah, all the time.
There's
You'd be
nothing-
sweating off your ringer. Like,
There's nothing better than sitting in an office with 4 other people wearing suits together. The only people you're impressing are one another.
You have to wear a suit
With
every day.
every day. I did intern, like work experience.
Post.
No. During it was for my MBA.
Ah.
And so I did that for like 10 weeks.
Suit and tie, man.
Yeah, suit and tie. And like one time I was like, and I got like Nick Marvin at the time. So I was like, suit and tie. And I'm like, and I was like, I'm cutting this short. I'm like, not doing this.
I remember when we went to Melbourne for the grand final, where this is from. I saw the NBA, the Melbourne media guys, and they had jeans and t-shirts on, and I was so I felt so ripped off.
You're a footy fan? Played footy when you were younger?
Yeah, it stuck me in the ruck. Felt like that was it.
The tall guy.
Yeah,
the tall
exactly
guy.
right.
Just get him tapping out.
Yeah.
So I've got this memory of 2018, West Coast win the flag. And as every fucking sportsman does in the history of the world right now, is get on your phones after you win. But we actually didn't do that. But I remember being in the bus like 2 hours post grand final, and there was just phone. Never been hotter. Never been more popular after winning a grand final. You know about that.
Yeah.
You've heard from people never heard from in your life. Taught you everything you know.
You want to talk about people that hit you up? Do you want to continue your story?
I want to finish my story.
Yeah, please do.
So people who hit you up. Okay.
Yeah. We'll see who's the best.
Flicking through.
Yeah.
Max Gorn, a lot of respect for the beard. There's a few people. Greg Hire, losing your fucking mind in your living room. Do you remember this?
Yes.
I had this distinct. I was thinking, what are we going to chat to Greg about? And I just had this thing like flashing. I'm like, I swear it was like you, like selfie mode with TV in the background, and Sheeta kicking a goal, and you just.
Yeah, I grew up in the KGB. So if anyone's from WA, that's Condola, Gerraween, Balga.
Love it.
I
So
don't know about this.
Yeah, so
that's the hood.
That's
I was Marangaroo. I was very close.
Yeah, exactly right.
So like you're in the KGB,
I don't even think your listeners are like from that. Like they're like, no, we're not listening from.
There'll be some KGBs, I bet.
But and so I was like. WA. So when I was coming through Wildcats, like I would be like, even when you guys, there'd always be a lot of them. I'm like, it's awesome. Like WA Sports supporting that, which they don't like. You don't really get that much. So, like, I loved it. Like, until you're in that, no one understands that world till you're in it, right? Like you would go, there's so many things. Like you would have seen me win a championship, emotional, like you're done, and you're like, fuck. Like that's why
I love this, like chatting to people about it, right?
Yeah, and it's but it is awesome.
So that was you fucking losing your mind in the living
mate,
room.
there was.
I gotta track that down.
There's been a few times. I remember one time, Shuey kicked a goal, and we were on the road, and I think it was against Port Adelaide, and it was just perfect timing. We had just flown in, and so I turned it on, and then he like literally kicked it, and it was like me and 5 guys, and which was cool. Like you had guys like Clint Steinwood that they're not footy guys, like they're rugby league guys or even that. So they're like just caught up in this like hysteria. So it was like sort of my jam where I was like, if there was ever a game, I was like, turn on the game, turn on the phone or whatever. So it's good.
Before we get to what you're doing with yourself these days, these here, I got 3 questions. One we'll say for social media. This one, do you know what this is?
Yeah, so... And the Wildcats do it well. They give everyone a piece of net with the championship. So Dan would have got one. And he would have got a championship ring too, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So I worked the 2018 season, went to Melbourne, team, flew back.
So my last year.
Yeah, your last year. Yeah. And then they asked me if I wanted to come back. And I'd like to finish my last, I think, year of uni or something. So I focus on my studies. They said, thank you very much. All my mates measured up for rings, never got one. But I still feel like I was there.
So you don't have one?
No
never got given one.
championship ring for Dan.
I think because I'd left the club, they're like, we're not going to spend the coin. But I don't know.
So you were there for the championship?
Yeah, I was there in Melbourne.
I reckon it's a nice touch. Like even at one point I was like, but then I was like, good on them. Like they're making money. And like the amount of work the staff like work ridiculous. Like I know Eagles, but like the Wildcats staff's a joke.
Grind.
Oh,
for 6,000 a year, like you,
mate. Like
for 42,000. Yeah. You'd like all staff set t-shirts out on chairs, clean up the court, pack everything down. Like there's no pack up crew. It's just the 12 staff in the front office.
Just Dan and the boys in his fucking suit packing up everything.
But you guys do have a great staff party.
Yeah, it was.
Did you go to Crown that year?
Yeah, I went to Crown. That's where that's where that's from.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going forever on this. Okay, so what are you doing now with yourself?
So I work Western Australia Institute of Sport, so in an athlete wellbeing role, which is good. So like even Peter Ball was like an athlete that is in my like group, I guess. Like I can help him out or support
Taught
him.
him everything he knows.
No, I didn't even. I tried to get I'll jump on the bandwagon. And,
Yeah, Pete. Yeah, I'll work it.
but so Olympians and more so like pathway athletes. So it's awesome to be able to. It's like sort of a role that in time, like when I first came in, the role is like, hey, make sure people have resumes and are either studying or working. So that shifted. It's like now. Helping like the teams that we have, like a rowing team or the hockey team or whatever, with like behaviours and values and stuff that I like love. Like so, it's part time. I did it because it was working in the reconciliation space, working a lot. Found this as part time, and I've got the charity that I obviously do a lot more than part time. So Stitch in Time. So
what's
really
that about?
focused.
A Stitch in
So.
Time.
Working in that preventative space, education around the importance of mental health, either done through the facilitation of workshops in schools and sporting clubs, or in engagement activities. So that's grown. I mean, we're heading down to Yelling up in a few days, partner of Taj Borough, and working with them and surfing WA. So
Taj Burrow's Little Fries comp.
yes, small fries.
Yep.
Yeah, so it'll be cool to get down there and give a little bit of education and guidance and support in that.
How'd you get into that space? Is it a long story?
Yeah, I mean, look, 2014, two significant factors in my life. In my own sort of journey, but then a close friend of mine attempted to try and take their own life. Brother's diagnosed with bipolar disorder, so it was sort of just a catalyst of going, well, I want to do something. Wildcats do a lot of stuff in the community, but I always felt like it was just this. There's a purpose, but it's a lot tick box, hey, let's get out there. It's to do. I wanted, knowing that you could impact in a bigger space, and so I literally reached out to 10 organisations, said I want to be an ambassador, selfishly just so I could become more educated in that space, and that's just grown now. Obviously, I think I was part and parcel why I retired. Like I was in this point where I was like, look, I love what I'm doing, but I see maybe more value in what I can do post-retirement in being in that space. And so, it's grown significantly in 18, 24 months in terms of what we're able to now connect with in clubs and schools and organisations. Obviously, it's a prominent piece. It's been a learning experience for me. Like when I retired, I was like, sweet, I'll just go speak in front of schools, to now I've got a team behind it, and still struggle, but with psychologists on board and other facilitators. I mean, my weakness is administration. And so it's still just we're volunteers, like I don't, our money goes towards facilitation and consultation for psychologists. So that's a battle, but the value in it is a lot more important, like getting a message from someone seeking out support or establishing friendships and relationships is special.
I did a little bit of a piece. I've been working with Men's Talk, which is a men's mental health organisation, and we did some interviews at 6PR. I was hosting there over summer. A stat that was put in front of me, now you may or may not know this, or may correct me or may agree with me, 7 in 9 suicides a week are men a day. 9 suicides a day, 7 out of those 9 are men.
Yeah.
That absolutely rattled me reading that out. I read that on air. It was a Beyond Blue presser, it'll be around those numbers.
Yep.
It's pretty. It's not incredible. Is not the right word. It's frightening, right?
Yeah. I mean, the statistics are alarming. I think even I think it's 3,318 lives lost to suicide. Highest preventable disease from the ages of 15 to 49. So the key word preventable, right? And so that's like your Men's Talk and and other organisations, the Stitch in Time themselves, like preventive space. And so, it's funny, like the current climate that we're in right now of COVID, like everyone was preaching about suicide, like especially in Victoria when there was that very long span of lockdown. People were saying, like suicide. And then the conspiracy theorists were like, oh, well, suicide numbers like actually decreased from the year before. But the studies were showing that the importance on mental health, like, just was magnified. Like people, like you need to be focusing on mental health. And so that shows that, right? Like that preventative piece, like clearly things aren't being done well because the amount of money that's been spent in mental health space continues to increase. But But I think it is that preventative piece. You know, like I even look at it, you know, we have all these campaigns in the world, you know, not disregarding the importance of them, but, you know, where is that actual educational piece? Like, where are they actually providing safe spaces to speak? How are they actually providing opportunities for people? And then even from that support service, there's no, like, there's waiting lists, you know, in a headspace clinic and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you talk about those numbers, I think, you know, we look at that, and even, you know, you can't tell me there's still not stigma attached to mental health conditions, like, as much as they can say that. And when we look at it, you look in the AFL world, I think that's the perfect scenario, right? Like, if an AFL player says, and I tweeted about this just only a few weeks ago, says, I am taking some time away from the game, like, generally, the first two things that are said are they're on drugs, or how dare they? Like, you live a privileged life. Like, how dare you take some time off? Like, you can't struggle. So we've still got a long way to go in that regard, and I think that perception as well. Like, we look at, you know, and I say this when I do you know, presentations. You know, when we ask a stereotype of a female, right? Like, we will say they're kind, gentle, all the attributes. Like, you think of wives, mums, whatever, like that, like, yeah, just that nurturing sense. Yeah. And then if you ask a stereotype of a traditional man, it's stoic, you know, strong, brave. But for me, like, the stereotype of a female, which should be shifting, is that they are strong because they have the ability to be vulnerable and communicate and not be criticised, right? Like, you know, we obviously maybe a bit out of the norms, like, we're more than happy. I know you wear your heart on your sleeve and you can be honest, right? And I think that's, but I still remember, like, when I was quite emotional at my retirement presser, and, like, seeing, you know, obviously good, but then be someone being like, where's your Kleenex sponsorship? And I'm like, well, if they would have paid me $50,000, I'd be more than happy to take him on board. But, like, that was that. Like, it's just like, really? You know, and I look at my own son now, like, you know, the way that's shifted. You know, like, I grew up in a really unique situation where, yeah, emotion was like, you never could display that emotion. So to see where now it's my son, it's like, yeah, feel that way, talk about it, you know, be a bit more patient. But unfortunately, you have to change those attributes because 7 of 9 of men, and I think that's because of that stigma that's still attached to mental illness.
Suicide's a reach from why I do it, but that's definitely a big reason why I find myself on social media calling out media types and different people across the land, is the lack of empathy and understanding for people in different circumstances. So as an athlete, yes, highly paid, highly privileged, live a great life as an athlete and have every opportunity, more opportunity than most people could ever get. But with that comes just as much pressure, just as much emotional things you have to go through. It doesn't matter who you're talking about. It can be the poorest of the poor or the richest of the rich. Everyone has issues. Now, the rich are always going to have more opportunity to get themselves out of it, but having the ability to show empathy and understand no matter what situation someone's in, like, to actually think, oh, I wonder why they've done that. Like, coverage I see on everything. Like Djokovic, I spoke about at the start of the episode. The Djokovic one is a little bit like, it's a bad example, sort of, but, like, people are like, nah. Djokovic has done this, Djokovic has done that. Like, if you actually remove his name out of it, he's just a guy that's applied to come into the country, tried to play by the rules, hasn't worked, has then challenged the legal system. I don't know. Like, I think we struggle with empathy, which that doesn't lead to suicide, but the lack of empathy across social media, across society, I think is somehow leads us down that path.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we love just to heap shit on people and then jump on that. You know, like, you know, I was saying, like, irrespective if you don't like his views on the anti-vaccination stance and all that, but yeah, for me, I said that to, like, my family. I was like, well, what's he done wrong? Like, he literally, like, entered the country. But you're completely right. I mean, I look at it when I was playing. I remembered, like, there was one reporter that every time there was a win, like, there was just acknowledgement and recognition of the starters. Oh, incredible. Is there a better leader than Damien Martin? Is there a better is Bryce Cotton the best player, best Wildcat ever, is whatever, you know? When you would lose, it was like the bench provided 10 points. You know, who it like this. And I used to think I'd be like, mate, like every single time I like literally when I retired and 6 months later I asked, like obviously a newspaper, and I said, oh, give me the articles of this, like I'll look back. And it was the same thing every single time. And I used to think, how are you comfortable in that media space to heap on that? Because at some point, there is individuals that have been open that they struggle with that criticism. And I understand that comes with the sport. There's no doubt about that. I don't agree with it. Like I still think there's a certain point, but to the point where it's like even say like there's a game, because at the end of the day, the fans, when I spoke about this earlier, their knowledge base isn't as high as a person that's involved in that sport. That's just like the same. Like I don't go to I might know base.
Responsibility's on the media there though, surely.
It absolutely is.
Because their knowledge base is higher.
It's not even that. It's what they write is going to be believed.
Yeah, correct. But they follow your sport. So they know what's going on more than the fans.
Yeah.
So then if they then write trash.
You think that.
Correct.
You think
No, but
that,
they do. They know. But then it's up to...
But it's also easy.
But I would struggle. Some of their... Mate, I would know of reporters that were interviewing us when we were going that if I was like, talk to me about our press or anything that was actual philosophy based, basketball, like plays, defense, offense, they wouldn't have a clue. Like it was a guy that with the West is employed by football. That's the breadwinner. Hey, but we need to cover basketball. Like there's no specialist journalism in basketball. Like I know, look, there's no history. Like you might have knowledge, but you might be an avid sports fan, right? Like so you have that knowledge around everything, but they don't go. So then, what's easiest to target? Let's just target. Once you lose, like it's. That's
what I'm saying. It's easy, and you know that people that are reading it are going to agree with you.
Correct. It's the same, and it's the same thing. Like we would go, like there'll be, and that's the thing. Like I've been now at games where like I struggle to go to games after this, like one because obviously being around, but I remember my very first game I went to, I was sitting up there and I went because one of my former best mates was playing for Cairns Taipan, so I was sitting up in a section so I could just get in and out, and I was feeling quite uncomfortable, and anyway they lost, and these fans were ripping into the players, like going nuts. Anyway, Mitch Norton came onto the court to shoot, which I think was actually a stupid move. Like it, like in that regard, like you're only going to cop criticism.
Yes.
And it's always like, if you want to, like, it's not going to help you for the next game. Like if you're that in your head.
Fife, you're kicking for goals.
Yeah, correct, mate. I was like, and I love Nordo, but it's like, just do that next, like there's plenty of guys that rock up.
Get up 7 a.m.
Absolutely, correct, absolutely. Anyway, and he goes, and for this reason, he goes down, he's shooting, and he makes like 23s in a row. And there's a guy in the grandstand that like goes, how about why didn't you make that fucking shot? Like, and just heaping. And then like goes, and I was like, yeah, he shot like shit, no doubt. But like he actually had a really good game. And like you're just thinking of that. And so, but people couldn't remove that. Like you would know this. If you had a shit game, you knew. Like, and I'm sure your wife would have been honest. Like you'd be like, yeah, go.
Mum's best, mate.
Right. And they'd go, like I'd even say to my wife, like, what do you reckon? She's like, yeah, you're a bit quiet and not the impact, like in a nice way. And I'm like,
yeah, you're a bit quiet. All right, don't come in my room. I'm only going to watch the game.
But yeah, media is definitely,
I've been enjoying being out of the game because I've just been calling people out left, right and centre, and people don't like it. People don't like feedback. But the beautiful thing about being an athlete is I dealt with feedback every day. Let's go. Absolutely. Let's keep doing feedback. That's what Media Watch is all about. Now, let's get to...
Let's go straight to...
Social media.
And we'll save you send it, we read it for another time.
Well, send it, you read it to another time. Okay, we've been going a little bit long.
Apologies.
No, it's been good, but we can it's emails. We can save them.
Social media, though.
Social media.
You know all about this. You know all about social media.
Oh, I gave you guys and
So the best question on this, Greg Hire has offered up. What sort of merch are we talking about, Greg?
Oh, I've got plenty of, like a jock strap.
Maybe a premiership jumper. All right, here we go. What's on the line? We're talking about Sean Reddich's shisha that he smoked in Bali, wrapped in a snake, signed by Greg Hire.
Yeah,
there you go, done. Social media, here it is. The questions by the people for the guest. Steele _Barnes.
Who's Greg's favourite guest on BackChat been to date, Butsy or Zoe?
Why is that in there? Don't
Hold
answer.
on, Butsy or Zoe?
Jixon.McDonald. Thank you.
It's the sort of tomfoolery that we have to deal with.
Jixon.McDonald. Jixon. What is
What
is
made
that
you
someone's
start
name?
to take selfies after every championship?
I was inspired by the Ellie. What's her name? Ellen. Yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah. So we did it, and then I was like, I'm definitely like reaping it. Like, mate, it boosted my social media. Like, I went viral, went like 1.5 K followers after each one. Brought out a selfie stick, like it was perfect way. So
I think there's also like a couple of championship photos that they have around the club, and it's like the team thing
mate.
with you holding a phone.
Well,
like that's the photo they picked.
So 1 year, because I did the first year, and the club knew, and then the next year, like, because obviously media is like tick 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 tick, and I literally like gave them no time. So like as soon as like they were like, all right, done, I jumped in, and they were like mad. They're like, there was no photos of the group
Without Greg holding a phone.
Yeah, I'm like, well.
Is there truth to the rumour that, not rumour, I know it's true as well. Did you take your 3 championship rings
To Melbourne.
to Melbourne
Yeah,
to take a photo with the 4th?
yeah.
Were you worried about jinxing?
Nah, I was so that was mate, and that was game 4, and I was like, and even Damo, no one knew, and so
Because there's a bit of a story, didn't you? You all carpooled to the airport.
yeah, we have the fun bus. That's like we had the same bus. We called the fun bus. It was like me, Tom Jervis, and Nordo. And there's a story that every single year there was a guy from the fun bus retired. Like literally every year, it's still happened. There's like only one left, which is Mitch Norton, and he messaged and goes, "I'm the only fun because everyone got COVID except him." So he's like, "I'm the last one remaining." But what was this?
The one that, so what I remember was that you had for a moment forgotten to take the rings, and you made the car turn around to go back and get them.
Yeah. And that's when Damo, and he's like, "You're joking," because he was obviously livid. But it was funny. The year before, Melbourne United, we didn't make the final, and Casper Ware won. And so he took a photo on their Mad Monday, and he was drinking a bourbon and Coke, and he had the ring on his middle finger. And because I used to always hashtag West is best, and he had the middle finger up saying West is best. And so I was like, we're playing Melbourne, perfect. And so like even they had their team song, which is a Meek Mill song, which is like called like Rings and Championships or something. So we played it in the locker room like straight.
Yes.
Like
In their locker rooms as well. Like
right, absolutely. Because we were like, everyone's like, do we go back? Like we had favourites, home crowd, like go back in 5, or do we win on their home court? And I was like, because I was playing with a bung AC joint, like I had to play, like jabbed it up every game. And I was like, this would be like I've won a championship every way. It'd be awesome to just win it on their home court. It was incredible. Like, and even went to Qantas Lounge, we ran out of alcohol on the way home, like on the plane. Talking about like, you think it was like, I was like, this is going to be the best night. We end up at like a cricket club with no aircon at like 4 a.m. I was like, this is not the way I was expecting my celebrations.
All right, this is from the Mad Shoeies.
Did you get bullied in primary school because of your name?
I knew you would say this. So my real name is Gergely. It's Hungarian. And so I always got bullied because they would say Gergely, but you would never pronounce it. So that's a gay. So, like, and obviously...
Luke.
Yeah.
Gergely, I like that.
Yeah,
That's actually better than Greg, to be honest.
I
man.
actually thought of, like,
Imagine
as I was getting an
imagine
adult...
basketball
I could've-
Gergely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I was too deep, and they would have been like, that's not your real name. Like, you're lying. But,
All right, this is from Monty _ Cavalier _ Much respect for the underscores, Monty.
Do you regret going your whole NBL career without recording a dunk?
no. Well, Is
this a fact?
Yeah, I didn't have a dunk in a game.
You were
Yeah.
close. Didn't you get
No.
stitched up one game, right?
No, one time I was on a fast break, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to dunk it. And Sean, I was anticipating the pass, and Sean just drove right by
Went to
me.
the cup.
Like, I was right in front of him, and he looked me off. And that was because I never had, I'm not an explosive guy. And to be honest, my chances were very slim because I was always exhausted. Like, as I would like try and get 4 offensive rebounds. I'd always subbing myself out. And that was my only time. I think I had just subbed myself in. I was like, I'm fresh.
You were causing the turnover.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
on the other end of the pass.
And I'm like, Sean here. But Sean got like rare dunks. Like he never did it. So he was like, nah, I'm being selfish. It was a joke.
This is from Ryan Smith, 1805. Strong claim on the snake-covered shisha, signed by Greg Hire.
Always saw you had to be the last to score a bucket before the start of every game. Did you ever have someone who would try be the last one, and how long would that battle last?
Nah, never had anyone.
Is this a little
pre-game?
Pre-game.
superstition?
Yeah. It was just mine.
So you were the last to drain
all
one.
the time. Yeah, I always would dunk it just before I got in, but then like if someone would shoot, I'd just quickly shoot like again.
Hang on, so you could dunk it in the pre-game, you just never dunked it in the game?
If you look up, there's a dunk of me at training, and that's all the guys that give me crap because like I was always like fine. But
Don't say you're not. You don't say you're not dirty about it. All right, Smokes. Smokes 4. Yeah, I like that.
Smokes 1, 2, and 3 was taken. So you went with 4.
Wow,
what was the hardest part about stopping professional sport?
I just think it's that banter. Like, and that day-to-day, you know, like doing that, plus massages for free, lunches for free.
Yes.
You know, like...
You get lunches for free.
Yeah. Awesome setup.
Staff used to get in on that as
All
well.
the time.
Yeah.
Every lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. Tacos.
It's taken it to a right
And
at the end of the
breakfast.
podcast to get a real groundbreaking piece of
we
information. You got
smoothies for breakfast.
free.
Yeah,
I
everything.
mean free.
Mate, honestly,
You said
it was
free.
huge.
Free. What do you mean free?
It was like such an easy, like it made us so much money by the end. Like lunch was paid for. And
By who?
breakfast. Like so.
You?
No. Like we had a team
It's not
manager.
free
He'd
if you
make
paid
us,
for
no,
it.
A manager would make smoothies, and then like everything. But then you'd always like toast or whatever down there because we used to just go from the gym straight there. So all
Yeah, I mean, toast is just
no, but smoothies were
bit of
good.
bread.
Yeah, but still,
smoothie's good. I'll give you
But
that.
unlimited amounts of muesli bars and whatever.
Yeah.
And then
Lunch.
Lunch was always like spag bog or like everything.
Curries, From who?
Mate, yeah.
Tacos.
Who?
Tacos.
From where?
The manager would cook
Team
it.
manager.
He'd go up.
Literally,
yeah.
there's an office in
And
the
now-
offices that's
What
full
do you
of
mean
like
the
a
manager?
pantry.
How many people was he cooking for? The manager.
Yeah,
Was the
he-
manager a chef?
No, he wasn't. And it was hilarious because he would leave like, he would always leave.
Flabbergasted.
Oh, mate, he'd leave training early. And he'd go, "Where are you?" And then he'd come in with these massive like pants, like preparing
Every day.
every day, mate.
The only free lunches I got as a player for 15 years was then there was a community event. So we had to go.
Hungry
We
Jacks.
had to go sign after training.
free.
And they bring in some of the
And they
some
would always-
Subway, and the Subway would never. It would be the same cuts of Subway for 10
Yeah,
years.
their Subway's always like
salads.
soggy too.
Salads, mate, and with the lettuce
Yeah.
and the
that's
the
cucumber,
drizzly.
soggy, soggy cucumber.
you know it.
Yeah.
But you're getting free lunches.
No,
you
mate,
offer.
and leftovers. Like so, then like, would you not get a feed after games?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Yes.
Like what feed after a
Oh,
game?
pizza.
Yeah, no,
Nando's
yeah,
sometimes.
we used to get like
Like a buffet, like a buffet.
mate, buffet things set up. So then I would take like rice and spaghetti. It used to feed my kids.
I remember watching.
You're what?
Like
Yeah.
because I would take left. I would be
That's
like,
right.
mate, this is. I'd load them up. If I ran out of dog food,
It's a bloody travesty.
I would have some
Don't let anyone ever tell you that West Coast is better than Perth Wildcats because we just found out today they are not.
I
Mate, it was
remember seeing
incredible.
players like walk out with like containers
Oh.
of like leftover food, like
mate, absolutely.
dinner for the week.
All right, so we got to decide on who won the best question there. We got a couple more, but I think we got to cut this up. It's between, for me, the dunk. That's funny in my mind, and just because I know it'll piss you off, and the last to score the bucket. I like that question because it shows a bit of knowledge.
Yeah, I like that one.
All right, Ryan Smith, 1805.
Is he the winner?
Yeah, it's the winner.
Okay. Does Charlie agree or?
Yeah, no, I think that was the best question.
Oh,
There you
good,
go.
Charlie. Very good. All right, we'll find you, Ryan. We're going to track you down and get you that shisha, mate. Hey, Greg. That was fun, mate.
No, I appreciate it. Sorry for taking so long. I know I've bad anything.
Hey, don't apologise to me. Apologise to the listeners, mate. No, it's been good. You had fun, Dan?
Extraordinary time.
You know what to do. Find us on social media. BackChat _. That's right, Greg. I know you're impressed. You can find us Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, which is /BackChat podcast.
Yeah.
www.backchatpodcast.com.au. Yes, there's a www in it. And if you want to email us for You Send It, We Read It, which is going to be a big time part of the episode next week, hello@backchatpodcast.com.au. Is that impressive?
I'm very impressed.
Okay, you want to plug anything before we leave?
No, mate. All good. Actually, I'll bail you up. It's 22nd of January if you want to participate in a water polo event. You can come on down. Maybe you can...
You want to see Greg High get beaten the shit out of by Will Schofield? Be there. 22nd of January.